I do believe we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Shimano School. We actually missed a week last week because of ICAST, and I was actually down in Mountain Home, Arkansas, and Jason and I were just talking. He was asking me if I was doing any fishing, and I was asking him about fishing down in Louisiana. So we skipped a week because ICAST happened. There was a ton of new releases from Shimano at ICAST. I mean, an absolute ton. I had the pleasure of shooting a lot of videos for a lot of the stuff that went live at ICAST, and from saltwater to freshwater, there was a bunch. So Jason here is, if you don't know Captain Jason Catchings, Jason has been with us. He was our second guest when we first started Shimano School, and many guests later, many techniques later, and many fisheries later, we're welcoming him back tonight to talk about targeting trophy fish in the Gulf of Mexico. So Jason and I will be talking gear. We'll be talking redfish, jacks. He said he's been targeting sharks lately and trout, but we're also going to talk about this correlation between Jason's fishing and my fishing in freshwater and how the gear kind of meets in the middle. We've got very similar setups that we use. So if you have questions, guys, this is your chance. Girls, this is your chance. Get your comments in there. Let me know, though. Let's start things off by letting me know where you're tuning in from. Billy Ray, what's happening? What's going on? We have both our Facebook page going live and our YouTube channel going live. So, guys, let me know in the comments. I will be able to get to them. And if you have a question, I will be more than happy to lay it on Captain Jason Catchings to see if we can get you an answer, especially if you have a question targeting the Gulf of Mexico, which is his specialty. So, Jason, enough of my blabbering. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Just super busy. Just came back from ICAST, like you said. Lots of new product from Shimano and G. Loomis for both the inshore and for the bass fishing, the freshwater side. Really good looking stuff. Very functional as well. And it's a crossover gear for probably 90% of it. You don't have to go buy specialty gear just for bass fishing or just for saltwater fishing, unless you really go out into the deep water, to the blue water. Then, yeah, that's where you're going to need some specialty stuff. But otherwise, there's a lot of crossover, and that's the great thing that's there from Shimano and G. Loomis and Power Pro with the braided line.
Yeah, absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. There's Trey checking in. Hey, Trey, how you doing, bud? I hate that I had to miss everybody at ICAST this year. I mean, this is probably my first time in 15 years I have not been to ICAST, with the exception of last year, which nobody went to ICAST last year. But we're seeing a lot of people checking in. Jay from Boca Grande, what's up, Jay Withers? John from Buffalo on our YouTube channel. Watts Bar checking in. Billy Ray. Toms River, New Jersey. John, hope you're getting on those. I heard the bluefin are starting to pop in around there, so hope you're getting out there. Bill Chambers from North Bay, that's Ontario. Northern California, Zachary Johnson from our YouTube channel. Bill in Pensacola. And amazing, guys. I love seeing this. We have people from all over the country. I hope everybody's doing well, obviously. We're starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, which is kind of nice. So were you were at ICAST, Jay?
I was at ICAST. I was there for a day and a half, and then I had to get back to the business because of clients coming in to fish and everything. ICAST is one of those things where everybody looks forward to the new products coming out. And with everything going on, new products really help the fishing industry and get people excited about fishing. But we've seen a big influx of people fishing, from recreational anglers to clients coming fishing with us. It's absolutely amazing, from the boat sales to motor sales to fishing gear sales. Is absolutely, a blessing in disguise, if you want to say, for the outdoors, for the hunting and the fishing industry, has really taken off again. And that's a good thing, because I see a lot of young anglers coming now, and that's very important for the future of our sport.
Absolutely. I think the toughest thing, we're getting a little bit of an echo again. I think one of the toughest things we're going to have is we've got so many new people who have been introduced and taken up fishing because of COVID, because they're not traveling. How do we keep them in this sport? How do we keep them interested? And I believe it's through education, things like we're doing here with Shimano School. If we can teach people how to be successful on the water, they're going to stick with it. I mean, it's just, I find it to be, that's our first thing we should be doing.
I think the other part of that is is taking some of the frustration and confusion out of the fishing piece, because it can get overwhelming. There's 900 products out there. People say, well, you need this, or you need this technique, or you need to learn this technique. It is a learning process as you go through things, but we can keep it simple and make it where kids have fun, adults can have fun. I think the other part is just keeping it simple. And if you're taking a kid fishing, understand it's about the kid and letting them get as many bites as possible. It doesn't matter what species it is. As long as that rod's bent and they're catching a fish, they're super happy. So if you're an adult or you're going on a family trip, understand it's about the kid and them learning and enjoying things. And the older they get, on tougher days, that can be a piece that is very important to teach them that side of things. For adults, what I think the part is going and learning different fisheries. Go explore, get out of your comfort zone, go do something different, go smallmouth fishing, go striper fishing, go largemouth bass fishing, travel and do some different things, because you're going to learn a technique and you're going to see how fishing relates all over our country and in Canada and South America, everywhere. It relates people together. And it's something you can do almost 365 days a year, weather dependent.
Absolutely. Some great advice there. We got people checking in. Zachary from Northern Cal on YouTube. Bill, I already said Bill in Pensacola, but some comments coming in. So Trey wants to know, are them bull reds in Venice out on the bars murdering topwaters yet?
They're starting to, Trey. Just be patient, okay? They're getting there. Right now we have a big influence of sharks in. And so we're really having to move around to catch our bulls right now. And I'm going to preach this a little bit, because if you're catching bulls and they're getting eaten by sharks, move away. Don't just sit there and watch 10, 15, 20 bulls get eaten by sharks. Move away. Just let those bulls have a chance to live and survive and breed. Move on. It's not that important to sit there and catch a fish and then watch it get eaten. It's going to happen sometimes, and that's okay. In the spectrum of Mother Nature, she's going to take care of things. But sitting on them and just watching one after another get eaten, whether you're releasing them or you're fighting them and they get eaten, move on. I don't understand why we have a big influence of sharks right now, except the water temperature is 92 degrees at 12 o'clock right now. We're about 4.5, 5 degrees higher than what we should be.
Incredible. 92 degrees. Our water was like 71 yesterday, so I can't complain.
I haven't seen 71 since like March.
Yeah, well, it's a little different up here. So we also have Damon from Fort Worth, Scott from West Virginia, Nikki, hey, how's it going? She's checking in from Grand Prairie, Texas, Kansas City, Pepin, Wisconsin. I mean, Patricia Conrad saying she's watching from Ocala, Florida, and enjoy fishing with Jason all the time. So
yeah,
you got some of your clients.
Patty and her husband Mike were just here a few days ago, and I know Patty's listening, so I'll tell a funny story. It took us 4 years to get Patty down to catch bulls with us. We had 4 hurricanes that came in, and every time she was booked, a hurricane came, and then she was booked, and here comes the big freeze that we experienced last year. So finally got her and her husband down, and they caught some bulls and had a great time. And they travel and fish a lot, and that means a lot to us for repeat clients like Patty and her husband, Mike.
Awesome. All right. And so again, folks, thanks for tuning in. This is another episode of Shimano School. My name is JP DeRose. We're here with Captain Jason Ketchings. We're going to be targeting trophy fish in the Gulf of Mexico, but we're also going to be talking about how similar that inshore fishery program is to a lot of what you freshwater fishermen would experience. So let's get things rolling. If you got questions, please put them in the comment section. If you can click the share button, that'll help get this out to the people who watch it. This is going to live in perpetuity on both YouTube and Facebook. So if you tag a buddy who might be interested in something like this, or a fishing friend, they're going to be able to watch this after we're done as well. So again, hope everybody's doing well. So let's get things rolling. Jason, we're talking Gulf of Mexico. We're talking redfish, trout, big nasty jacks, sharks. How do we try in? What's that?
Black drum, tarpon, The whole gamut of fish, and snook as well. So that whole gamut of fish there is up for discussion.
All right, so there you go, folks. You've got a wide plethora of trophy species to ask questions about targeting. I'm going to start things off with you and talk about the correlation, because the first time I ever fished inshore, I realized how similar the fishing was to what I do for smallmouth bass on the Great Lakes, because for us, it is a sight fishery. It is casting accuracy is a benefit, but the setups are very similar. I'm fishing 7 to 7'6" spinning rods, 10-pound Power Pro, 3,000 size spinning reels, and 200 size bait casters. Is that the same thing you guys are using?
So on the spinning rod side, a 7-foot to a 7.5-foot rod, just depending on what you're doing. So let's walk through that. A 7-foot rod, absolutely perfect for sight fishing, like a Conquest 842 or an 843 in that rod. The NRX Plus rod, same thing. If you want to go with an E6X, same situation there. Now for like a pop and cork with a long leader and everything, like a 7-6-foot rod, like an E6X and a 904S, just for the distance and for a little more being able to control the fish around the boat. Because those big bulls, they get up to the boat and they want to run under the boat. It gives you a little more leverage on them. Spinning reel size, I'm very simple. 3,000 spinning reels, Vantford, Stella, Stratic. The new Sustain is absolutely amazing. I tested that reel for almost 6 months and probably had on the two that I had, I think if I went back and looked at the paperwork, 1,200 redfish between the two reels, and I beat those reels to death trying to break them, and you can't.
That's impressive. That is one of the new releases. Oh, there's that echo again. That is one of the new releases we had at ICAST, and there was actually several that will fit. Can everybody hear that echo that's going on? I don't know if it's coming from your speakers on your side there, Jay.
I don't know. I don't hear it, but let me adjust my volume again.
Yeah, take your volume down just a hair if you can, just until the point where you can hear me. Okay, that sounds good. All right, so we're talking about 3,000 size reels, and Shimano really dropped a bunch of stuff that fits into that category for you. I mean, from NexSave all the way up. NexSave, Noski, and Sustain was all reintroduced this year. But really, for that salt environment, how important is it having a reel that has something like Core Protect and X Protect and, the IPX8 water treatment or resistance? Is that an important thing, or do you find that those lower end reels that don't have that tend to degrade a little quicker?
100%. The higher grade the reel, the better it is going to be in the saltwater, just because of the saltwater being corrosive. The environment's tough. You're out there. You're going to take a lot of waves over the boat. You're fighting fish. Just the salt in the air is tough on them. But also, there is a lot of grime and dirt in the air from the sand on the beach blowing if you're fishing the islands and things like that. But I also think the fish themselves, when you're talking 20 and 30-pound bulls and 30-pound jacks and 5-foot black tip sharks, pulling on that gear, the higher end gear is going to last you longer and is going to have more success for you on getting those fish in faster, for not only the fish's sake, but for your sake as well, in landing a trophy fish.
All right, so let's get to a couple questions here. Here's one from Jay Withers. I'm going to leave this one for you. So what's your favorite month to fish, and what techniques are at the top of your list?
So I would tell you my favorite month is mid-February through March, and that's two reasons is not many people are fishing during that time. The water is still clear. We're coming out of the cold phase of the big fish being singles, maybe doubles. They're coming out of that phase. They're starting to get ready to go back offshore. And so they're really starting to get in groups of 5 to 15 to maybe even 500. And so that fishing during that time of year is very fun for me. I love to fly fish with clients. We do both fly and conventional. I would say 90% of our fishing is sight fishing, whether it's fly rod or conventional. Now, some days we have to go out and throw big top waters, popping corks, swim baits, things like that, because the fish are out in 6 to 20 foot of water, and that's where we have to fish. So sight fishing is a little tougher for that. But any of those, from a swim jig to a soft plastic to a fly, any of those are my favorite things. I like to let people watch the fish eat and enjoy that piece of it.
All right. And what you just said, there it is again. Wow, that's weird. What you just said was basically going to fit right into the next person who has a question. And he was my guest a couple of Shimano schools ago, C.A. Richardson, who everybody should know who C.A. is, flats class. He's incredibly knowledgeable, great at educating, but he's looking for some tackle setups that work for bull reds in Venice. So give CA some advice here.
So I've known CA for a long time, probably 20 years at least. And so I would tell you, on the conventional side for bait casters, I'm a big believer in the Bantam and the Mentanium DC reels. I like the fastest reel possible, 8-to-1 reels or faster. That's what I like. On the conventional rod side for a bait caster, Conquest or NRX rods, 852, 853, just depending on what lure you're throwing. If you're sight fishing, throwing a soft plastic 852. If I'm throwing a big top water or a big crankbait, then I like to jump up to 853. With 30-pound SSV2 braid is perfect for those setups. And if I'm going to go spinning rod and I'm going to go sight fishing, Conquest or NRX Plus in an 843. And then if I want to throw a popping cork, then I'm going to go E6X 904 SF. And I'm going to go with a Vanford 3000 or Sustain 3000. And if I just want a workhorse that I know is going to work every single day and last forever, I'm going to go get that Stratic 3000 out. And it's just a little heavier, but compared to the Sustain and Vanford, but it's a proven reel forever. And it's one of the best selling reels at Shimano for a reason. But I promise you that Vanford and Sustain will change your sight fishing game immediately.
Yeah, that's some great advice. And I have a feeling CA. Oh, there it is again. Wow, that's really weird. It's almost like it starts as soon as I start talking, and then it's like the echo cancellation in the software starts to stop everything from happening. But CA, I'm sure, is no stranger to doing any of this stuff. But CA, we hope you're doing well. I saw you were down at ICAST. I know you're going to have some great videos, folks. He does every Monday night. CA goes live on Instagram as well. And he does his little fish talk, and great chance to get some knowledge out of another one of our really, really talented and knowledgeable Shimano staff, field staffers. And if you haven't checked out his stuff, you can head to Waypoint TV and check out Flats Class. I mean, there is an absolute ton to learn from this man. So thanks, CA.
CA's a very technical fisherman, very technical, understands movement of fish, understands presentations, and he's a good teacher on that part. If you go fishing with him, he's going to, and watch his videos and TVs, very technical, very specific, and it can be overwhelming sometimes trying to figure that piece out, and CA does a good job of breaking that down.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move on to another question here. We got up from our YouTube channel again, John A. He's saying, specific brands aside, when you're picking a fly rod, length, weights, and what kind of line? Are you going floating, intermediate, sinking? What do you recommend?
So 9-foot fly rods. I like a 9, 10, and 11, and a 12. Obviously, NRX Plus is by far, hands down, the best rod that any of my clients have thrown. And I can tell that by how many they go and purchase and show back up with them. Fly lines, I like a floating line, weight forward, and I like to overline my rods. And I want a very heavy tippet at the end, where the grams of the fly line are very heavy at that short end of it. And the reason for that is in Louisiana, you don't need to cast 60 feet. You need to be able to cast 20 to 30 feet and be very accurate on the first cast. Sure, there's going to be a 60 and a 70-foot cast every once in a while, but most of these opportunities are going to be between 20 and 35 feet and very accurate on the first cast. or if you have to make a second cast, you need to be able to pick it up and put it down really quickly. So a weight forward line and go up a size on that is very important. I hardly ever use an intermediate or sinking line. Even if the fish are out deep, I don't use that line. I'd rather adjust that with my fluorocarbon leader than trying to adjust a fly line.
All right, so good advice there, John. I hope that helps you out. We've got another one saying you were talking about Stratic and saying they bought a Stratic this year and it's such a nice reel. It is really our workhorse in our family line. I mean, that is the one that gives you, probably the best water protection, the Hagane body, the Hagane gear, X-Ship, all the power. But most importantly is if people start comparing from Sustain to Vanford down to Stratic, which fall one on top of the other, I always tell people Sustain is a Stratic body with a Vanford rotor. Okay, it's got that MGL rotor, so it gives you the best of both worlds. Sustain is going to give you super powerful, rigid body in the all-metal body, and it's going to give you that low startup inertia, easy reeling out of the MGL rotor. Vanford
I think
Go ahead.
JP, I think the big part there is just the inertia alone difference in getting that reel started is huge. I'm talking it's almost effortless to make that start going. So you're gonna catch more fish, especially if you're sight fishing, because you've already got line contact. You're already ready to set up. You're not having to move a lot to get that reel going and get your line coming in so you can go tight on a fish. And understand, like I try to have 100 different setups in a boat. If you got in my boat, there's probably 35 combinations between conventional gear and then there's 12 fly rods. But so if I have a lady fishing with me, I try to give her a light rod, a light reel to make the day last longer for her. Okay, so she doesn't get tired, she doesn't get wore out. And then if you're a big guy and you got big hands and everything, then we probably need to get you a different rod and reel that's balanced and weighted for the way you are. And same on the bait casting rods. Some people like a bigger reel, so go with a Corrado. Some like the smaller Bantam. Just depends. So you have to have all these different options, but also it lets customers experience that rod and reel in the boat, so then they know what they like and then go to the store, because we know when you go to the store, a lot of times you can't cast it, you can't reel it with line on there or a lure. We all see the shaking of the rod, pushing it on the ground, but none of that is real application. So being able to give different views, but also it makes the angler more successful because you're giving them a specific piece of equipment that fits their needs and the type of fishing. And that's where saltwater inshore fishing and bass fishing techniques really cross over, because in bass, I look at it as, I got a lot of the elite anglers are my friends and major league fishing and stuff, but they're very specific things that they use to catch certain things, from drop shot to Cinco fishing to crankbait rods. They're all different, but there's a specific technique, and trying to use one rod to do all those, you can't do that and be successful.
Yeah, the analogy I use when I do seminars is always, it's like trying to go golfing with nothing but a putter and a 7-iron. You can do it. You're going to get through the course, but your score is not nearly going to be as good as it would be if you had a full bag of clubs.
That's correct. So I see Zachary sent a deal. We teach people how to fly fish all the time. Okay, so you don't need to learn to fly fish. And to be honest with you, a lot of times the techniques that people learn and then they try to come do it on the boat, it is totally different than casting in your front yard or casting in a driveway versus being on the boat. So I would rather you come, get to us early, stay with us. We go out and practice casting, and we learn how to do it from the beginning to the end and watch you be successful throughout that piece of it. Whether you're conventional or fly fishing, if you've never done either one, come fishing and we'll walk you through that. That's our job. We don't fish as guides. None of my guides fish. We are there to teach you how to fish.
Some very valuable knowledge will be there. And there it is again. Come on, software, StreamYard. All right, there it is. Yeah, so Zachary, that's a great piece of advice from Captain Jason Catchings. It's basically a very, very different world, fly fishing. The mechanics and everything is very different than conventional. I've spent time doing it. I am not nearly as proficient at fly casting, and I had actually a really great fly teacher, and it was the biggest thing he taught me was it's an acceleration to a dead stop and an acceleration to a dead stop. And that was what I had to wrap my head around, because as a conventional angler, we're so used to using wrists and snapping wrists to move the rod, where you don't do that with a fly rod. So
yeah, fly fishing is very, very technique driven. Is keeping the fly rod and the fly line on the same plane, the plane going back and going forward, and waiting for your fly line to get straight and have a nice loop, and then go forward with it. No wrist, just hard back, hard stop with lots of acceleration on the forward motion. But also a lot of people don't understand the importance of the line speed going backwards. And I see this a lot with our fly anglers. They can cast forward, but they don't practice backhand casting. And not every bank you're going to be on, and not every fish is going to come perfect to you. And that's a big piece to work on. And I really think that whether you're a conventional fisherman or a fly fisherman, go practice before you come on a trip. And if not, let us know, hey, I need 30 minutes to go out here and practice. Well, we'll leave the dock earlier so we can go practice, make a few casts, get everything adjusted. You're spending all this money to come fishing with us. Do a little practicing, or let us know ahead of time, and then we leave a little earlier so you can get that practice in. So the first fish we see, we're on our game, and we're not trying to figure out things. If you communicate with your guide, your day will go a lot better.
Yep. That sounds like some great advice there. And there's an example right there. Scott saying fly fishing the Gulf is at the top of his bucket list, which it is for a bunch of people. I've seen this mentioned, quite a few times. Here's another one, living in New Hampshire. All of the fish that we listed are bucket list fish for these people. And that is really amazing for me. The area you're in, Jason, is it's every species you have trophy opportunity for.
That's correct. We do. So in Texas, where we trout fish a lot, there, we have fish up to 13, 14 pounds there. The trophy size of Boone and Crockett, if we put it in deer terms, in Texas, is anything over 10 pounds or 30 inches is considered a trophy speckled trout there. Good red fishing in Texas as well, but really known for big speckled trout there. Come to Louisiana, you got a chance at world-class sheephead, world-class redfish, 40, 45-pound fish is possible on a fly rod. Super big black drum, jacks, and if you like catching sharks, they're there and they're fun to catch on a fly rod, or just get them to eat a topwater popper on a fly rod. Super fun because it's all visual, and you really get to see what a predator they are, how they hunt, how they move around, and it makes you really think about how you present a bait to a redfish, whether it's sight fishing or whether you're presenting a fly to a shark. It's all visual, and it makes you a better angler because you get to watch how the fish react. Did I strip it too fast? Did I swim that swim bait by him too fast? Oh, he didn't like that. So big differences there, but it's like smallmouth fishing. I've only done it twice, and it's very visual, very technique oriented, and you have to pay attention to how the fish are reacting. And I think that's the great thing about inshore fishing is 99% of the time you can make it all visual. It's like going bass fishing during the spawn 365 days a year in inshore fishing.
It doesn't sound like a bad place to be. I got to be honest. God,
I'm still waiting for you to get down here. I'm still waiting.
It's on now. Like, I cleared the border for the first time. I was telling you earlier, I cleared the border for the first time in over a year and a half, and just running down to Mountain Home, Arkansas. So it's on. I've got some trips planned, and you and I will be definitely talking because it has been. Well, the last time I was down in Louisiana was season 2 of Breaking Boundaries. We're filming season 8 right now. And I was with Conway Bowman fishing out of Hopedale. And before that was like 5 years prior, I was out with Boudreaux's out of Cocodrie. So those are my two opportunities that I had, and both times were unbelievable. I mean, the fishery is just so cool, and there's so much to do. So, I'm excited. We'll be chatting for sure about that one. So, folks, again, this is another episode of Shimano School. My name is JP DeRose. I'm here with Captain Jason Ketchings, and we're talking trophy fish in the Gulf of Mexico. If you don't know, you got to look up Captain Jason Ketchings, because he has a guide operation, works out of Texas, Louisiana, kind of all over the Gulf, targeting everything that you would ever have on your bucket list. So it's kind of a cool deal. Trophies for everything. Fly fishing, conventional. He goes offshore. He does inshore. The whole gamut out there. So that's something you could actually have a chance now to ask him questions. If you haven't, do me a favor. Let me know where you're checking in from. I saw Darren. You just checked in from Niagara Falls, Ontario. Mike Howard checked in. Hope you guys are doing well. See, here's a testimonial, and I love these kinds of things. If you haven't fished with Jason, do yourself a favor and get a trip booked. My family has fished with him multiple times, and that's from Damon Johnson. So excellent advice always coming out of these talks that we have. And again, every other week we do these Shimano schools, and what we're aiming to do is educate anglers. That's our main goal here. Our main goal is to break down the confusion that happens with fishing, teach you guys about new fisheries. We rotate between freshwater and saltwater every other week. Next week, we're going to have FLW or MLF Big Five Touring Pro Alex Davis coming on with us, who he was down in the Shimano booth at ICAST for 3 days, did 60 plus videos. The poor guy got worn right out. He had to do a lot of the stuff that I normally get stuck doing. So thank you, Alex, for doing such a great job with that. Here's a quick question for you. Someone's asking, what does it cost for an inshore trip, Jason? What can people expect?
Right. So just for fishing alone is for 1 to 2 anglers is $850 to $950 a day. 3 to 4 anglers is $950 to $1050 a day, just depending on what we're doing, whether we're conventional fishing or we're fly fishing. Obviously, fly fishing, we're only going to take 1 or 2 anglers in the boat. Conventional, we prefer 1 or 2, but we'll do 3. If it's a family and we need to do a trip of 4, we will, just depending on what your needs are and your expectations are. We fish anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a day is a full day for us, just depending on where we are. And look, we leave early, and if the fish don't turn on till 2 o'clock and I need to stay to 4, I'm going to stay to 4 to make sure you get a good day in. And all my guides will do the same thing. We're not punching a clock to worry about, okay, your 8 hours are up and the fish just started biting, because some days that happens. You work, and the tide's not right, or the fish just aren't doing what they're supposed to. And then at 2:30, the fish turn on, and then people are like, oh, my 8 hours are up. That's not the way to do it. You know, we're going to give you the 100% best we can in that situation.
Well, there you go. So let's let that catch up. Come on, StreamYard. All right, there it goes. So I have a question for you. We were talking about 3,000 size reels, and I hear people talk all the time about drag. How much drag pressure? The more drag pressure, the better. And I know from all of our 3,000 size reels that you talked about, they all have a cross carbon drag washers. So they're built to take those long, hard runs from those fish. But they kick out 20 pounds of drag on a 3,000. And the 4,000 and 5,000 are going to kick out 24 pounds. You're targeting big fish. 20 pounds is enough, obviously, is it?
It is. And here's what I think a lot of people don't understand is when the fish is running, you let the drag and the rod do the work, okay? When they stop, you start reeling and try to turn their head. I see a lot of anglers, if the fish is swimming to the right, they want to turn and pull the fish back to the left. That's how a lot of times these big fish come off, because now you're taking the line and crossing over their back, and they're turning a different way. So you've moved the hook in their mouth. Pull the fish the same way that they're swimming and they're hooked, and now you can really use the rod, and you can crank line on them and pull them in. But look, on spinning reels, we use 20-pound tests for 99% of our fishing. I don't use anything over 50, except for when we go tarpon fishing or we go try to catch snapper and some sharks and things like that. 20 and 30 pound SSV2 is perfect for us. Allows long casting distance. It's smooth, and it can handle it. I mean, it can handle a 40-pound redfish. Today I had a client on a Conquest 842 and a Stella 3000 catch a 46-pound black drum sight fishing. That guy fishes with me a lot, and we saw it coming, and he's like, oh, yeah, I want to catch this. And, you know, an 843 rod in a Conquest is not something that most people think you can handle a 40 to 50-pound fish with, but they can if you use the rod the correct way.
Yeah, and that is, I think that's the one thing you want to see a lot of people get to understand, and that's where someone fishing with someone as experienced as yourself or your guides, I think that's the one lesson they're going to take with them that they should own forever is that technique. You can give them that instruction where, you know, we see people sword fight fish where they're back and forth and they're dancing around the boat and you know, they're running around like super jacked up. And when you teach them that technique of keeping the line tight and, you know, pulling against the fish and how to work it, the drag and how to use the rod and keep that rod in its power position rather than high sticking or pointing it straight at the fish, you know, letting the rod do the work. Those are all things that you not only you gain from the trip you take with someone like Jason, it's something you take with you for the rest of your life that you fish.
Well, you can move that from bass fishing to red fishing to trout fishing, but I see a lot of anglers, and I'm sure some of my clients think I'm getting on to them a lot. They get the rod way out of position back here. You have no leverage on the fish. Now you change to the rod to bend at the tip, and there's no power, and you're in trouble. And that rod, at some point, I don't care what rod brand you use or what you use or the highest end, when you change it out of the position it's supposed to be in, you're going to break it. Period. It just happens. But keeping that rod, you know, in the right position, shoulder lower than your shoulder, bend it where it's flexing from the grip to the second or third guide. That's where all the power in your rod is. And don't sword fish it. I mean, back and forth. Just keep pulling. Constant leverage on it will make a huge difference.
Absolutely. And we're seeing some testimonials come up here. And I love seeing stuff like this. So, you know, John saying he regretted not booking a trip with Nick Nicholas before he passed, but he's going to book a trip with you because he loves just hearing what you're saying. That's enough to get people to know that they're going to have that proper experience. And then you've got Patricia saying, you know, great equipment, great instruction, lots of bull reds, you know, you're patient, which that's one thing I see with a lot of guides. I think that's the X factor is that patience level. And understanding what kind of client you have, because some clients can really take the abuse. They like the abuse. You know what I mean? Like you can rub them hard. I got my buddy Captain Bo Johnson, who he can figure out who he can push the button on and push them hard, and he knows which ones he's got to lay off on and be more patient. So that's an important thing. So,
and I think that's where building a relationship, but also knowing your angler and trying to figure it out as the day goes on, you know, okay. And I see a lot of people try to give too much instruction. I'm going to give you 2 or 3 things, and I'll keep harping on those 2 or 3 things throughout the day, because those 2 or 3 little things can change you from a 5-fish day to a 20-fish day, or landing that fish of a lifetime because you're paying attention and you're reading how the fish is going to react. And that's one of the biggest things is these bulls, sometimes they play like they're asleep on you. So you're reeling, you think you lost him, and he's running right at you. And the next thing you know, he's under the boat and your rod's under there and you're in trouble. And a lot of times, a thing that we'll do is we'll take and open the bell or push the button and let all the tension off, pull the rod out, leave the bell open, make sure the line's not wrapped around the rod tip, figure out what you need to do, and probably 95% of the time that fish will relax and stay on, and you can regroup and get back to where you can fight the fish the right way instead of trying to yank him out from under the boat, rubbing the line on the boat, breaking it, catching it in the prop, or the fish takes off again. The rod touches the boat, and snap fooey, it goes.
Yeah. Never let the rod hit the gunnel. That is an automatic hinge point. I like this one from Zachary saying he had to soak his hands in a bucket of ice water after a 2-day trip with you in Venice. So that's a good testimonial. When you hurt someone's hands, you're working your clients pretty good. And this one I kind of find funny. He's saying that he thought bass fishermen just yanked the fish out of the water after the hook set. Yes, when we're flipping a jig with 65-pound Power Pro, the fish doesn't last 10 seconds. But when you hook a smallmouth on 5-pound Power Pro or 8-pound Power Pro or on a drop shot, we don't have that opportunity.
So I laugh about that because Hughes Andrew, who is a Shimano rep through Sportco Marketing, he brought his twins fishing, Avery and Carter, and we took them fishing. And Hughes was like, "You really gonna let my kids use these Conquest and NRX Plus rods?" I was like, "Yeah, we're fine. Maintaining reels." And those kids were jerking 6 and 8 pound reds out of the water and flip them into the boat. And I remember Carter saying, "Dad, don't worry. If it breaks, I know somebody." And I laughed so hard. And that's the joke we hear all the time. But, bass fishing, I see a lot of people. And, a lot of people forget that Venice is still considered a very good bass fishery in its sense for largemouth bass. And flipping those canes and flipping up against the roseau canes and the lily pads and things like that, you are going to jerk those fish out of there because you need to get them out of that cane immediately so they don't get you wrapped up in the roots or run back in the cane 5 or 6 feet and break you off.
Yeah. It's all about cover. When you see the aggressive hook set and drag out from a largemouth bass fisherman, it's always about stopping them, whether they're in a dock, around cane, the roots of lily pads, pencil reeds, anything, a tree, anything that the fish, if you give them too much slack, the first thing they're going to do is zigzag through the cover, and then you're stuck because as soon as you pull tight, they're locked up. So again, folks, I love the fact that everybody's been joining us in Interactive. Lots of questions from our YouTube channel, which is great. We've been seeing more and more interaction from the YouTube side of things. And I know this is tough. We're in the middle of summer. Hey, listen, I know everybody's fishing. It's still light outside. It is where I'm from anyways. I don't know about you, Jason, but I got light outside.
We have about 20 more minutes of daylight.
Yeah, I got another 40 up here probably. So the further north you go, you get a little longer light. But again, thank you everybody for joining us. We're still going to be taking your questions. So if you have some, feel free to ask. It could be about, let me run through the species here. Sheephead, snook, black drum, redfish, shark, tarpon, speckled sea trout, you name it. Jason has answers for them. So feel free to put your questions in there. And if you can, click the share button. That helps us get the word out, or tag a buddy in the comments because that'll make sure they get to see this. So again, folks, we are talking Gulf Coast targeting trophies with Captain Jason Ketchings on another Shimano school. So Jason, what's the most impressive thing you saw outside of, I know your love for sustain, you've already proclaimed that. So what's the most impressive thing you saw? Did you take a look at GCX, the new E6X replacement?
I did. I think that rod is going to be something special. I think a lot of people are going to have to give it a chance. Okay, they're going to have to pick it up. They're going to have to fish it. And it comes in at a price point that is very friendly in the sense of the rod and the technology that you're getting. It's going to be one of those rods that, in my mind, you could take and fish anywhere and have 1 or 2 of each of the series, a bait caster and a couple of spinning rods, and be perfectly fine. I could come fish with you. I could go to Lake Fork and fish. I can kind of use that as a multi-purpose tool rod. I think I like the design of it. I like the feel of it. And just a little bit of changes make a huge difference in that new lineup.
Absolutely. Did they have the new, well, there it is again. All right. Did they have the new Zodius travel rods there? Did you see them?
They did. I did.
5-piece?
And people don't ever talk about travel rods because you think of a travel rod, and I hate to use this word, but you think of it as being cheap, right? Like, oh, here it is. It's something I threw in the back of my truck. So if I'm going down the road and I see a little pond, let me put it together real quick. That's not the case with a Zodius travel rod. It is it takes all the Zodius that you get in a regular one-piece Zodius rod, and now you have it in a travel rod. And I think what I like about the Zodius series, and we use them some, is the price point, but also like the feel of the rod. It's very, very smooth. It casts well, and it loads so well in that midsection of the rod that you can cast it effortlessly. And it doesn't matter if you put a SLX on it, if you put a Corrado on it, it doesn't matter. Any of those reels fit that rod perfect. And it's a rod where you can go buy 6, 7, 8 of them in different actions and different things without breaking the bank, but be able to go and do everything you want to bass fishing. But you can take them and go catch speckled trout and redfish on them with no issue, whether you're wade fishing or fishing out of a boat.
Yeah, for sure. And then also we had another new release that'll probably fit into what you do is the new Corrado rods, which,
yes,
I really like the last group of Corrado rods, but these new ones are beautiful, beautiful rod.
I think the piece that I take away from that rod is the handle. The handle and the way it feels in your hand. You put a reel on there, it just fits right. Right? I mean, when you pick a reel and a rod up and you put it on there, you know automatically. And I put a reel on 3 or 4 different models, and it just fits perfect, whether it was the SLX MG or it was a Corrado or Mentanium. Putting it on there, they all fit perfectly in your hand. There wasn't a big like, oh, it's too heavy here, or it's changed the balance of the rod. That didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There it is again. All right. And it is gone. Good. All right. So yeah, absolutely. And I think the big thing about the handles on those are the fact that it's that Shimano original CI4 Plus reel seat that makes it so comfortable. And for those of you who don't know about CI4 Plus, CI4 Plus has been used by Shimano for a very long time, both on the bike division to make, rear derailleurs and parts in the Gruppos to the fishing world. Our first time we ever saw it was in the Stradic CI4.
Right.
And then we saw a Kronark CI4 for a little while. And then now Vanford uses it. And all of our Magnum Light spinning reels that have the MGL rotor all are made out of that CI4 material. And even some of our low profile bait casters have CI4 side plates to reduce the weight. So some very, very good technology there. So they started making reel seats out of it. And it's basically carbon interfusion. But the nice thing is it's super lightweight, very tough, and incredibly sensitive. And that's why they make such a good reel seat for us. So here's a couple more for you. This one I'm going to laugh about first because he's saying, oh, come on, a bass fisherman will do the biggest hook set ever. I never said we wouldn't do the biggest hook set ever. I just said we wouldn't flip them in the boat.
Right.
That is, you are 100% right. A bass fisherman, I am guilty of it. I get on my tippy toes when I set the hook. If you're in a boat with me, people watch my left foot or my right foot, and often I'll have a little back step with my right foot before I set the hook, because I know if I don't kick that tripod out, I'm going out of the boat on the hook set. So that's what I do. So that's a telltale sign of a bass fisherman, is a foot shift before the hook set. Keep your eyes on that one.
I laugh all the time when I see that, because I know immediately when I got somebody who fishes bass, they want to high stick it straight up with the rod like this, and they either jump or they move their body to the side. And I'm like, oh, and they love to back up in the boat. Like, okay, I got him on, let me back up. I'm like, get up to the edge where you can see what your fish is doing. Stop walking to the back of the boat or the side of the boat before you walk off the front deck. Stay up on where you can see your fish. Bass fishing, gotta love them.
Oh, yeah. We are a unique group, I'll tell you that. So here's another question. Best rod action in the Shimano lineup for Mirrodines or treble hook plugs? A lot of lower rod lines are just fast and extra fast. So, Brian, you're looking for something obviously more moderate in action. So are you looking spinning or casting would probably help Jason narrow down the search for you? So you can let us know that. But, okay, let's start with casting because we know how many moderate rods we have in the Shimano lineups with the casting stuff, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, and I know this is going to to make some people grin. I would tell you, buy the best possible rod you can get. And I'm a big believer in an 852 or 853, whether it's a Conquest or NRX, or even in the IMX Pro. Those rods are very, very good. So Brian's saying a spinning rod. So I would look at anything in the 843 or 842 range. If you want to go up to 904, you can. But for 99% of the people, I would tell you 843 is going to give you the action that you need for that Mirrodine or a treble hook plug like a Skitter Walk or any of those topwater lures that are on the smaller side. You'll be fine with because you want to be able to cast those lures a long ways, but you still need the soft tip to be able to make that lure work perfectly. But also when you load up on a fish, that you're not pulling the bait all the way out of their mouth, especially speckled trout fishermen that fish a Mirrodine or a topwater. Let the lure load up, let the rod load up when the fish eats it, and let them pull a little bit before you pull back on that fish. Too many people want to jerk and set the hook as hard as they can, like a bass fisherman, and they rip it right out of a speckled trout's mouth because it's soft. And same thing with a redfish. A lot of times we will pull a topwater or a Mirrodine or any type of suspending lure or jerk bait away from a redfish because we try to load the rod up on them instead of letting them swim and put the weight on the fish itself, and then let the rod do the work at that point.
Okay, and so Brian, for yourself, you're talking spinning and treble hooks. For us up in the north, which I think would work perfectly for you down there as well, you're hearing Jason say 842, 843, but for those who aren't Loomis lingo addicts, 842 is a 84-inch 7-foot rod that is medium power, and 843 is 7-foot medium heavy power, which I can see when you start getting into bull redfish, that medium heavy is almost a necessity because you'll be outgunned running a medium. For us in the north, fishing smallmouth, walleye, largemouth bass, just about anything up here that swims with treble hook baits like jerk baits, like the New World minnow, which is absolutely
I can't wait to get that down here.
Look at a smile on his face now that I said world minnow. But what I throw, I know the rod says fast or extra fast. You want that part of the rod to be like that to impart the action, like Jason said. The power of the rod will give you the flex of the rod. So if you go too heavy, if you were to go to a heavy rod with fast action, that's not going to be good for throwing treble hooks. But if you go to a medium rod with fast action or a medium heavy, depending on the size of the fish, you're going to get more taper in the rod, more bend in the rod when it loads. But the action, you want that fast action for moving that bait with short little twitches. Because a moderate rod is made for crankbaits that are being straight reeled, where a Mirrodine is something you're twitching. So if you get to that slower action of a rod, you're going to have a harder time imparting the right action to trigger the strike. So that's my 2 cents. I think Jason's kind of on the same board. So I would go like Corrado spinning rod, like 7-foot, 7'2", medium power or medium heavy, depending on the size of the fish. Zodius in that same family in Shimano. We even have GLF rods that would fit the bill.
It would.
From Shimano. So, I mean, we have everything from SLX all the way up to as high as you want to go to Conquest that will fit.
And I think the biggest part is the understanding the taper of the rod and how the rod is designed, because that's going to affect how your lure works. And that's the most important part about matching a rod to the lure that you're using will change your success rate. If we took a flipping stick and tried to fish a topwater or a jerk bait, we're not going to be nearly as successful with that rod and that lure combination.
Now here's one, and this one is, come on, catch up, streamer. There it is. This one's asking about, so Hans is asking about the Dialuna Rod, which is a European model. And Hans, unfortunately for us, in the North American market, Dialuna is not part of our lineups. For our rods in North America, we have the main ones, the mainstays would be like from Convergence going upward, like SLX Convergence, and then now Corrado Rod, and then Zodius, and then X Pride would be kind of Shimano's higher end, $300+ rods. So Very, very cool. But Dialuna is a gorgeous, gorgeous rod, and it would be working as well for what he's doing. Here's another one here for you, Jason. Good bait caster set up for striped bass fishing saltwater with bucktails and soft plastics. To me, a striper and a redfish are kind of similar. So
100%. I'm a Bantam fan and a Mentanium DC. If you wanted to get a Corrado, you could. A Bantam and a Mentanium have plenty of line capacity with 20 or 30 pound Power Pro on there. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. They got plenty of drag, and they cast. And that's the piece that people have to understand, is being able to cast all day accurately and long distance. That Bantam will cast like there's no tomorrow, and so will the Mentanium. Just depends on what fits your hand better and what rod you're going to put it on. And I would bet an 852 for some of the smaller stripers would be perfect on a bait caster, and NRX or Conquest, and then jump up to 853 if you really want to put some heat on them. I think that would work perfect for catching striped bass with a bait caster and a bait casting rod.
Yeah, and I think there it is again, and it's gone. There you go. All right, so and I think we're talking Tom's River, New Jersey here. So big stripers are a possibility up there. I know when I fished with Captain Blaine Anderson, we did the Connecticut River. I was throwing a 7'6" swim bait G Loomis E6X rod, and I was throwing a Corrado 200, Corrado K200, which worked fine. But if you're a person who, maybe doesn't want to do that maintenance that you have to do with freshwater reels, because most of the freshwater reels have X-ship, which is they have 2 extra bearings on the pinion gear that become susceptible, obviously, to saltwater. You can switch over to Tranks, which has, a drain port, and it's got a better water treatment for salt water, and they've removed that X-ship, those 2 bearings. So Tranks 200, Tranks 300, Tranks 400, all phenomenal choices. I would go with a Tranks 300. I think I could do just about anything with that reel.
We catch a lot of tarpon on a Tranks 300. I mean, that reel is phenomenal. Like if I had one reel to go tarpon fishing, to go catch snapper on, and to go catch some big sharks, give me a Tranks 300 and I'm in. And put it on an IMX Pro Blue rod and I'm set.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully that helps you out there. So we got one more here. We're hit the 57-minute mark already, Jason. You can believe that. So it's Brian was just asking, he was just asking about the Miradines. So he's saying, okay, sounds good. Zodius and Cuts, he corrected, meant Corrado. Zodius and Corrado do okay for saltwater? Yes, but what's your recommendation with the guides, Jason?
Well, I mean, I would probably go with the Zodius just because I've seen it in action. I've seen it in the saltwater. I haven't put the new Corrado rod in the saltwater, so I can't give you that piece of it. I'm sure it will do fine taking care of them. We rent our rods, whether it's a Conquest or whether it's a NRX Plus. We rinse our rods every day to get any of that saltwater off, wipe them down. But that Zodius and the new Corrado rod, I see no reason neither one of those with a little bit of care will not last you as long as you want and have some great performance and great catches out of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's all about maintenance. There it is again. Come on. Catch up, computer. Yeah, so I agree. Brian, it's all about maintenance. Both of the rods are going to perform. In my opinion, the new Corrado is not much different than the previous generation of Zodius. It reminds me very much of it. The new Zodius obviously has that monocoque handle, so it's a little more sensitive. But yes, spray them down. I personally like to use a solution of like Windex or ammonia and water mixture in a spray bottle to kind of break that. There's Salt Away is another product you can spray your stuff down with, but light rinsing with fresh water and wiping them down is probably one of the most important things you could do. For sure. There you go. Well, folks, there we go. We hit the 59-minute mark, and time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it, Jason?
It's amazing how quick 59 minutes goes. I wish some days fishing went that fast when it's a little tough, but it's always fun. It's great when viewers come in and ask questions and we can give feedback. And please understand, like, you can text me. My cell phone is out there. You can send us an email, and we'll answer any questions you have. It just doesn't end here. You can Instagram us. You can do all that, and we'll answer any questions that you have.
So, Jason, where can they find you?
So it's real simple, www.jasoncatchings.com, just like catching a fish, add a s.com. Cell phone number is 281-389-4548. And on Instagram, CAPT, Jason Catchings. And that's where I'm at. And we'll answer any of those anytime you have a question.
All right, there you have it, folks. And it's gone. All right, good. There you have it, folks. Another great evening. Thank you so much for joining us for another Shimano School. I hope everybody stays well, keeps fishing. If you have any more questions, like Jason said, feel free to reach out to him. We will be going again in 2 weeks. So not this Tuesday coming, the Tuesday after, we'll be talking with MLF FLW Pro Alex Davis, who is better known as the Spinnerbait Kid, a Gunnersville guide, one of the best I've ever fished with on that lake. So I hope you guys can tune in then. Until then, guys, if you could do us a favor, tag a buddy in the comments, share the feed for us if you can, and we hope to see you again real soon. Everybody take care. Thank you, Jason. I really appreciate your time, dude.
Thank you, man.